In my past videos on Ablight, I have shown you Skirmish gameplay, but this new version, developers let me test out, as a small part of the campaign I can now show you, and they have also answered more than a dozen of my questions about the game and their future plans for it. The campaign itself is rough, stuff is missing, cutscenes and voiceovers are a work in progress, but everything I was able to see and play gives me a great first impression despite its rough edges. This is a Sewerpunk game, and in line with that, the aesthetics and visuals tend to match such a fresh, or should I say putrid, and original theme from the get-go and all throughout the gameplay. So let's start from the beginning and the first mission with story exposition.
How many times did you ask for this story? 2,000 years ago, the others emerged from the dark and turned the world into a graveyard. The Hierophants of the Dawn gathered artifacts and turned to the Iskar. I wasn't born in the wasteland. When I met your mother, I wore the blood-stained badge of a centurion.
As you can see and learn, the lore is already expansive and spans for thousands of years in the past, and hundreds of years of events precede the current stage of the world. There are multiple voiced characters, and while they might not be animated or show up in the game world, they will be replaced by lightly animated illustrations, and they have already been woven into the story rather well. The way characters show up and interact here has already been changed to not take up the entire screen, but follow the player with a small window, talking head and subtitles. Yes, the unit pictures in these tooltips are made using AI, but they are scheduled to be replaced by original works from artists. And on the topic of tooltips, I was kinda getting annoyed by these as my time in the first campaign mission / tutorial went on, because they would keep pausing my gameplay to tell me about some of the most basic RTS elements of Ablight. I don't mind an RTS game explaining the basics, and doing it during the first campaign mission is fine, but the pausing of gameplay was the main annoyance. I already gave my feedback to the developers about that, and I hope in the next versions these tips will show up on some corner of the screen, with me able to click on them if I want to get more info and pause the game to read that info and see the examples provided. It's a sound onboarding system and very detailed, but in my book, it just needs a different type of execution. But I would love to read in the comments what you think about it.
I want to see how smug you look with my spear through your throat!
I don't fight duels, Centurion. I fight wars.
Anyway, I am playing here from the perspective of the Guardians faction, formed from previous Inquisition members and sort of a mix between freedom fighters, mercenaries and even less savory types, but all with good intentions. The Inquisition itself started from a good place and turned into the current bad guys, hence the red capes and all, while the Guardians are blue. An easy way to differentiate the good guys and bad guys from these campaign missions.
I'm Prefect Nerva, 7th Legion. I have terms for your commanding officer.
Now, the devs of Ablight are not straying away from a familiar resource system, but what you can see in this version is also far from finished. So there are workers which act as both builders and resource collectors, and interestingly enough, there are upgrades you can buy to speed them up. Even more interestingly, food, for example, isn't just collected from a sort of a bush, but also meat from wild animals, and you can construct and operate farms as well, which will be different depending on the faction you play with. Do note, devs confirmed to me hunting will be expanded with many different animals, both neutral and aggressive, including flying animals that can be hunted later on.
Perimeter's clear, General. No sign of Aurelia. And we missed Brutus by a hair. Seems he scurried off like a rat. Left a hangar smelling of fresh exhaust and fear.
The other collectible resources are iron and transcendium, but as you can see on the screen, there is also a fourth resource, and it's called Resolve. It is used mostly for special upgrades, powerful abilities and unique faction bonuses. Transcendium, on the other hand, is used for more advanced units, buildings and teching up.
If you're still here at sunset tomorrow, the Archangels return. And this time, there will be nothing courteous about it.
In this gameplay, you will notice I have a lot of possible tech upgrades and unlocks I can research from the various buildings, including the HQ building, unit recruitment buildings, and even resource collection buildings. This, of course, isn't going to be all available at once in the final version, but it was allowed in this one so I could try out the various tech upgrades, unit skills, and even faction enhancement powers. Do note, not all of them are functional right now due to them needing more work on the back end, but most of them are, as you can see in this gameplay.
You expect us to walk away while we're still digging graves for our brothers? Lads, with me, let's smash those red bastards into the dirt!
If you are interested in the multiplayer of Ablight, devs have already made it functional and it is possible to play against other players. While in the Skirmish mode, almost 20 maps have already been completed. You can see my previous videos with the Skirmish gameplay and from the viewpoint of all the factions by clicking on the card on the top right or by using a link in the description. Because these developers from Synap Arts are long-time RTS gamers just like you and I, there is a welcome number of quality of life controls and features already present in their game. For example, you select only military units in a box even if your box selection window has some builder units in it. Then if you have several unit recruitment buildings of the same type selected and order up several units to be recruited, these will be spread across all the buildings you have in your selection and each will produce some of them. Another great feature is the side build box in which you can see which units are being currently recruited. There are more such features spread across the gameplay and it shows you how well these developers understand the needs and wishes of RTS players. There are more such features spread across the gameplay and it shows you just how well these developers understand the needs and wishes of RTS players. I asked them about formations and drawing unit positions on the map just like it is possible to do in Beyond All Reason and even Zero Space, and they said they are already working on that feature along with more stances. Hold position already works well and I used it to good effect in this campaign mission. And since I also asked them about this campaign, they first explained that what you see here is just a demo/tutorial created to be a showcase for potential publishers and investors and for their own internal debugging processes.
You said she died! You said that for 25 years! You lied!
The actual campaign will be made up of 16 extensive missions for the base campaign and possibly some optional side missions if they find the time and resources for it. The story itself is already written and there is enough of it for an extra campaign. Since you probably noticed the population numbers at the top right of the screen by now, I can tell you that 200 is the maximum unit population in this version I played, and also that some of the advanced units take up several population slots. The future maximum hasn't been decided yet, and it will depend on how stable the game is across a variety of PC configurations. As you can see in this gameplay, there are both organic and mech units, including flying units, and devs plan to add more units as this doesn't represent even half of the planned unit roster. They even allowed me to share concept art with you of some of the really powerful late game units they are preparing. I told them that players like customization of units, as the recent channel poll shows, and that the age of fighting with clones of units is the past. And while they hadn't planned on this feature, they do agree it is a good idea that they could implement in their game. What they had planned already and what I really like about this game is the asymmetrical nature of the three factions. They are working on creating at least 15 different units and 15 different buildings for each faction, along with a large array of unique upgrades, abilities, and faction distinctive sets of global support powers. Additionally, all factions will have at least one completely distinctive gameplay mechanic, so you can expect a similar level of asymmetry that is already present in Age of Mythology Retold, for example. I also asked about stealth, and their answer was that they had already created a unique mechanic in Ablight when it comes to how stealth actually works and how it can be countered beyond simply having detection. But they are still contemplating if they even want to use stealth in the game or not.
You're alive, Commander. That's one less name I have to cross on my ledger.
So while RTS players love their unit callouts when prototyping and creating vertical slices for hunting funding, you can do what these devs did.
Oh.
Just record grunts, laughs and other non-verbal sounds and use them until you have the funds to pay for proper voice acting. A neat trick and something I don't see often. Now, testing games mid-development can lead to some funny situations and discovery of bugs or missing features developers or other testers themselves haven't noticed. And all it takes is just to have a different approach to playing and thinking about how to approach different situations. So as I was playing, there was a mission objective that stated I was to explore the map and find the first enemy base. My first thought was, does this game have a dedicated scout unit? I checked the Guardian's HQ and found one, called the Hawkeye. So once I recruited it and set it exploring, I ran into an issue. At first I thought it was just a user error on my end, but after I tried to explore the enemy base with half a dozen scouts and each was unsuccessful at triggering the current mission objective, I knew I was onto something. So I explained this to one of the developers and they hopped into a Discord call with me and I shared my screen to them. Turns out none of the previous game testers used this particular unit to complete this mission objective, so no one noticed that the flying unit's line of sight is incapable of triggering such mission objectives. A funny situation, but I'm sure the game devs among you watching this video just learned a valuable lesson about game testing. Now, as these developers are still searching for potential investors or publishers to move their game to the next development stage, I hope you will help them out by wishlisting and following their game on Steam, as this directly shows your interest in the project and helps developers to find funding for it. I hope you enjoyed this showcase, and if you're interested, you can find many more like it on my playlist shown here as a card or links in the description. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!